consumer outfit. No branch of the media, and certainly no manufacturer, has ever gone out and impartially conducted a test and then announced the results of that test in a straightforward manner.
Old soldiers never died. One became president of the United States during the fabulous 50s and dealt with such matters of national importance as playing golf in the Southern California desert.
You'll never be a good putter if you move over the ball, and the easiest way to remain still is to be comfortable.
Gee, Ben, that's too bad. He says, you could have had your fifth. And he says, yeah, I could have my fifth. He says, I played with a young kid. If he had a brain in his head, would have won the tournament.
Never try to lift the ball. Never try to help the ball along. Granted, the club is a little bit longer. It's a little bit more difficult to hit, but the harder you try to swing at it, the worse results you'll get.
Welcome to the September-October issue of The Wide World of Golf. In Locker Room, we'll look at some of the major action of the past few months. In Tools of the Trade, we'll answer the age-old question, which ball is the longest? Arnold Palmer follows with some pointers on uphill lies. Bob Rosberg and a host of tour pros bring you the first installment of a new putting series. Tempestuous Tommy Bolt is featured in the Legends, and Hale Irwin reveals his winning technique with the long irons. You'll see Robert Gomez at home in Las Vegas and find out if the leaf rule is really a rule at all. And Dave Marr tells you how Sam Snead's sweet swing can help you. Hank Haney thinks some of your bad shots may be due to your ball position. Our state-of-the-art series continues with Bobby Jones and Nick Faldo, and you can check out Palm Springs' finest attractions, its golf courses. Bruce Carson has a spotty idea to help your short game. Peter Costas is back with another personal lesson, and Jack Nicklaus reflects on his days as an amateur. Judy Rankin has an alignment tip to help your game, and we'll wrap things up with some commentary from Jim Nance and a look at what's coming up in future issues. Let's start things off with Locker Room. Midsummer, major championship season. This issue, Locker Room looks at the highlights. At the U.S. Open at Medina, 45-year-old Hale Irwin ran in this monster putt on the last hole of regulation play for a final round 67. The next day, in an 18-hole playoff with Mike Donald, Irwin fired this 2-iron, 16 to 6 feet, and made birdie to draw within one. Finally, on the first hole of sudden death, Irwin became the Open's oldest winner with this birdie putt. Lee Trevino went bear hunting at the Senior Open at Ridgewood. In the last round, Trevino dropped this birdie at 15. And another at 16. Each time urging the crowd to cheer louder so Jack Nicklaus would be awesome. Betsy King came from 11 shots back in the 36-hole final of the U.S. Women's Open and vaulted into the lead with this 30-foot birdie. Patty Sheehan led by 9 shots midway through her third round, but sent this one into the drink to close out the round with a double bogey and a 4-shot lead. Sheehan continued to falter in the final round, and when she came up short for birdie on the last hole, King was the champion for the second straight time. Masters champ Nick Faldo let the field know he meant business with this pitch and run into the hole for eagle at the 18th of the first round of the British Open at St. Andrews. Over the weekend, Faldo blew away the field with this machine-like play, setting an open record of 18 under par and leaving no doubt he is the game's best player.
The PGA Championship was played under the cloud of racism brought about by the admission policies of the host club Shoal Creek in Birmingham, Alabama. When it came time to play golf, Aussie Wayne Grady overcame the toughest course setup of the year and cruised home by 3 shots in his first major championship victory.
A new DT with higher velocity windings for more distance off the tee. More than just extra spin. Now extra distance is wound right in.
Pinnacle Gold. Longer than anyone thought humanly possible.
I didn't know I could hit a golf ball that far.
Ultra's exclusive 432 dimple computer design means added distance that can improve your game.
That was 1,000 points of nonsense. In the annals of consumer disinformation, nothing has ever approached the hokum surrounding the subject of golf ball performance. The USGA publishes a list of no fewer than 593 types of golf balls conforming with the rules of golf. And yet, no golf body, no consumer outfit, no branch of the media, and certainly no manufacturer has ever gone out and impartially conducted a test and then announced the results of that test in a straightforward manner. So we're going to try to make a bit of history. It takes the form of a comparative test in an attempt to answer the ultimate golf question, which is the longest ball.
The test in the following story was conducted at a leading golf ball manufacturer's state-of-the-art test facility. The company requested anonymity, and the wide world of golf respectfully honors that request. The comparison took place on July 11th and was conducted by an independent three-man team from the Penn State Biomechanics Laboratory, led by Dr. Richard Nelson.
Until they're set in place.
The golf balls tested were the 7 most popular brands among the golfing public. They were the MaxFly Tour Limited MD, the Pinnacle Gold, the Ram Tour Lithium Plus, the Schlesinger 480 Interlock, the Spalding Top Flight XL2, and the Titleist DT100, along with the Wilson Ultra. All of these balls are two-piece balls, with the exception of the Titleist DT100, which is a wound three-piece ball. All of the balls were 100 compression or higher. 24 of each ball type were tested. The balls were purchased over the counter, 2 sleeves at a time in Santa Monica, California, West Palm Beach, Florida, Summit, New Jersey, and Detroit, Michigan. The balls were arranged in a predetermined order, which assured that each brand was at a different place in the hitting lineup in each test block. They were then incubated at 72 degrees overnight. 6 of each brand of ball were included in 4 separate test groups, so each ball would only be hit once. A mechanical golfer was set to produce a clubhead speed of 90 miles per hour on each swing, approximately the clubhead speed of an average golfer. The balls were struck with a tailor-made metal driver with 10 degrees of loft. The club was fitted with a graphite shaft of regular stiffness. The machine hit the balls onto a flat bent grass fairway cut to 1/2 inch. The ground was firm. There was no rain for 1 week prior to the test. Only normal maintenance watering was done during that time. Wind conditions were moderate, averaging 7 miles per hour and blowing right to left. After 4 hours of testing, Dr. Nelson's team crunched the numbers while the professor commented on the execution of the testing.
They have very precise controls on the impact velocity produced by the iron Byron. We arranged the sequence of the balls in such a way that if the wind should change slightly or if there's any minor change in the system, it will have a uniform effect upon the balls. It's extremely important in this type of an experiment that no bias creeps in so that one ball is either aided or is at a disadvantage.
The results were divided into 3 categories: carry, carry and roll, and impact area. From a strict statistical standpoint, the Top Flight XL2 was the leader in the carry category with an average carry of 205.3 yards. But as you can see from this chart, the results showed no significant statistical differences, varying only 3.1 yards from the top of the list to the bottom. If the Titleist ball, which is a 3-piece ball, is excluded, the average difference from top to bottom is only 2.2 yards. Not surprisingly, in the carry and roll class, the order changes. The Schlesinger 480 had the best average total of 237.8 yards. The Top Flight XL2 moves down to 3rd overall, and the Wilson Ultra is in 2nd place. The total difference from the top of the heap to the bottom is only 5.4 yards. Because there is no meaningful difference between the balls and the distance results, the impact area listing may be the most interesting of the 3 categories. This category shows how tightly grouped each of the 24 balls of the same brand landed. Therefore, it indicates to some degree how consistent each brand performed in terms of distance and dispersion. Again, the order changes. Of particular note is the fact that the Top Flight XL2, which was first in mean carry, ranks last in mean impact area. All these numbers may seem to indicate that one ball or the other is slightly better or worse than the competition, but that's not really the case.
It's important to realize that the tests that were done today are limited to strictly a wood as the club and at a velocity around 90 miles per hour impact. That's a velocity characteristic of good golfers when they hit the drive. It has no implication for hitting iron shots or wedge, other types of clubs. So it is somewhat narrow in interpretation, okay? To follow up on what I said about the variation within, one example would be the Spalding ball, which ranked #1 in carry, slightly different than the others, but ranked #7 in dispersion. And that indicates that although its carry quality or characteristic is slightly better than the others, it also is much more dispersed. So a golfer would be hard-pressed to pick one ball because it's slightly better in carry, but if it's worse in dispersion. It suggests the importance of different characteristics of balls, and the longest ball may well not be a very important factor, at least based on the tests we've done today.
So what conclusions can you draw from all this testing and analysis? When you sift through all the Madison Avenue hype and go by the numbers, the answer is clear. There is no longest ball.
The ball is well above the feet. We're going to do everything we can to compensate for that. First of all, we're going to stand up just a little straighter, maybe not quite as much flexing of the body. Straightening up, gripping the club down just a little bit shorter, and as a matter of fact, taking just a little more club, meaning instead of a 3-iron, a 2-iron, to compensate for shortening the club up and trying to get that same distance. Again, keeping our chin in a very good position, high, so that as we come into this shot, we do not dig in or hit it, let's say, fat, which is something that all of us have a tendency to do once in a while. So, we're going to stay very tall. As my father used to say, stand tall and hit it. And we're going to stand tall. Now, keeping our head in a very steady position, not flexing quite as much in the hips or in the legs as we might normally do. And a little more club.
So much emphasis is placed on ball striking in golf that the average player sometimes forgets that the best way to improve his score is by practicing his short game. Putting is the biggest part of the short game. It accounts for 45% of the strokes taken by an average player doing a round. So the goal of this series is to help you improve your scores by improving your putting. I'd be lying if I said there is any guaranteed method of becoming a great putter. From the stroke you use to the putter you choose, putting is based almost entirely on feel. There are a few fundamentals that all great putters follow, irrespective of their personal styles. We'll emphasize those points as we progress. Just like the full swing, how well you putt is determined in large part by what you do at address. The way you grip the club is a matter of personal comfort and feel. However, most successful putters use the reverse overlap grip.
The most used putting grip by touring professionals is the reverse overlap grip. This grip gets the hands close together so they're able to work together. It also gets the left hand in control where it steers the putter head. The right hand is completely on the club, so you're able to stroke the right hand through the shot directly at your target. Let me show you what I mean. The left hand is on like this with the index finger extended. Then we put the right hand, the entire right hand on the club. And we're able to put a good stroke, left hand in control, and the right hand is able to stroke straight through the putt at your target.
No matter what style grip you use, both of your thumbs should be on the top of the shaft, and the back of the left hand should directly face the line of the putt. Keying on the back of your left hand in this manner will help you square the club face to your target. The most important part of gripping the putter is how much pressure you apply with your hands and where you apply it. How much pressure you apply depends on what type of stroke you use, but the putter is never held tightly. Where the pressure is applied is generally universal.
You should always hold your putter loosely, but the pressure you do have in your hand should be located in the last 3 fingers of your left hand. That way it keeps your right hand from overtaking the dominance of your stroke. The more your left hand is in control, the more your putter head will fall through towards the hole. So remember, your left hand should be in control and the pressure should be in those last 3 fingers of your left hand.
The final point about grip pressure is one of the things all great putters have in common. Your grip pressure must remain constant throughout the stroke. If you start squeezing harder with either hand during the stroke, it will affect the squareness of the club face and thus the path of the ball. You've probably noticed the putting posture of tour players varies quite a bit. Some are very upright. Some are quite hunched over. They all look different because they are all in the posture that feels most comfortable to them. That may sound simplistic, but it's vital that your putting stance be rock steady. You'll never be a good putter if you move over the ball, and the easiest way to remain still is to be comfortable. There is one absolute about your putting stance, and it's another one of the common factors in all great putters.
One of the basic fundamental principles of good putting that I dare say no great putter ever violates is simply keeping his eyes over the ball, or more specifically, keeping your left eye for a right-handed putter, which is your dominant eye. It should be over the ball when you putt. If you're not keeping your left eye over the ball when you putt, then it's a fair bet you've created a dog leg in your vision, which is only going to make it more difficult for you to put a consistent stroke on the ball. With the eye directly over the ball, then it's much easier to take the club straight back, straight through. If you've got the ball a little bit too far out, you can imagine, just from a physics standpoint, looking out at that far ball and then trying to create another angle to the hole, your stroke would either come back inside or outside. It would never be consistent. An easy way to check this is once you have the ball in the position you think you're comfortable with, take a ball and take it up to your left eye. Now if you're settled in this position, drop it over the ball. If it hits the ball, you're probably a fair bet that you're right over the ball where you should be. If it lands a little bit behind it or a little bit outside, inside, whatever, adjust it accordingly so that you're not creating these visual dog legs, which only makes putting harder. Make it simple by getting your eyes over the ball. Then it's easy to take the putter straight back, straight through, straight in.
Here's a few more points to think about in taking your putting stance. Your arms should hang freely to avoid tension buildup. The ball should be positioned just about opposite your left instep, or at the very least, slightly left of the center of your feet. Most good putters set up with their feet and hips just barely open to the line of the putt, because they feel this makes it easier to see the line of the putt. The shoulders remain square to the line, however. Finally, your hand should be slightly ahead of the club head, at the very least perpendicular to it, and stay that way throughout the stroke to prevent your left wrist from breaking down through impact. The left wrist breaking down causes problems too numerous to list. I'll be back next issue to suggest what type of stroke is best for you and how you can make it part of your game.
I turned professional actually in 1946, but I didn't really become a good golf player until 1955 when I went to Hogan for a grip change. And he changed my grip and eliminated the fear of a hook. And that's when I really learned to play golf in 1955. That was what we called Hogan's secret back in those days. All his secret was a weak left-hand grip on the club to eliminate the fear of hooking. You could utilize all of your power without the fear of hooking, which was very important to me. I've thrown a couple of clubs and maybe cussed a couple of times on the guy, of course, but there's so many guys out there worse than me that you wouldn't believe. But they never get, I'll tell you, I've got the face that looks like I should say something, or just look like I'm a tiger. I'm looking for a fight or something. We did this one time at Colonial in Fort Worth. Porky Oliver and I were playing the last round together, and I wasn't playing very well, neither was he. We weren't going to win too much money. So when we got to the 18th green, we'd already made an agreement. I was going to threaten to throw the putter in the water, and he ran over and grabbed it out of my hand, threw it in himself, walked over and threw it in himself. The whole side of the hill just came up out of their seats. I mean, it was just, they'd read so much about my temper and everything. I was playing in the U.S. Open at Cherry Hills in 1960, playing with Claude Harmon and Ken Venturi, and I was playing the last hole. I teed up first and hit a couple of drives out there, and they came back off that hill back into the water. The carp had jumped up out of the lake, and I let him have it. That's just probably as mad as I ever got. I thank the good Lord for what I've got, and I've been fairly successful. I haven't made as much money as some of the other guys, but what's money anyway?
Earlier in this issue, you saw the dramatic 2-iron Hale Irwin hit on the 16th hole of the U.S. Open playoff to set up a crucial birdie. That Open victory was Hale's third. The others were in 1974 and 1979, and each time his 2-iron proved to be his lethal weapon. In 74 at Wingfoot's rugged 18th, he hit a 2-iron within 15 feet of the hole to protect his final round lead. At Inverness in 79, Tom Weiskopf eagled the par 5 13th hole to close in on Irwin, but Hale responded by rifling this 2-iron to 3 feet. Irwin has long been regarded by his peers as one of the best long iron players in the game.
Good long iron play is critical to winning any golf tournament, but it helped me win 3 United States Open championships. The proper technique is never try to lift the ball, never try to help the ball along. Granted, the club is a little bit longer, it's a little bit more difficult to hit, but the harder you try to swing at it, the worse results you'll get. Remember to strike the ball first, then your divot, never trying to lift it. Let me demonstrate. Okay, ball position, just slightly inside the left heel. Nice light grip pressure. Now don't try to swing fast, just nice tempo. I think you'll find that'll help you.
I was about 2 years old when I first picked up the game. My dad used to babysit me, so he used to take me with him when he went to hit balls. We went to this Arnold Palmer driving range. It was right by our house, and you know, I used to get in his clubs and get in his bag and everything, and just I used to take his clubs and try to hit the golf ball. So he, you know, picked that up and ended up cutting down a club for me to go out when he used to go out there, and I used to hit balls with it. You know, and that's how I really picked up the game.
He's always been very competitive. He loves golf. It was the only thing he wanted to do. He knew by the time he was 13 that golf was where he was headed. He gave up soccer, baseball, basketball. He used to play all of those before age 13. And at age 13, he decided that golf was where he wanted to go.
I went to school at the University of Arizona in Tucson. I went there because I would play golf, and that's what I went to school for, to get some experience so I could make it on a tour. I won 6 college tournaments in my career. I won the Fred Haskins Award and the Jack Nicklaus Award for Player of the Year last year. And those were a great honor for me because, you know, it meant I was the best last year of any of the college players. The Walker Cup team was a great experience for me. We played in my last match, second day, my singles match. We had a good match going back and forth. all day. I had about a 35-footer up the hill, and I knew I had to make it in order for any of us, for us to really have a chance. I was the first match of the afternoon. I hit it firm enough, and I knew it was in. I played as good as I could possibly play. It was fun playing for the United States. Going into Tucson, my first tournament, I was nervous. It was more of a anxiety type, ready to go and wanting to play, you know, nervous, ready to get going, that type of nervous. I really felt comfortable out there in the environment that I was in, you know, especially being in Tucson. That helped me a lot. When I walked up to the green on 18 and I had a 6-shot lead, it was kind of relief and a feeling of, wow, I did it. I actually held on and pulled it off. My brother and I have become a lot closer since he's been caddying for me. We kind of grew apart when I started school.
Pull around, baby. Get around now. Get around.
Since we've been on tour together, it's been great because we have gotten to know each other again. And it's great for me because I have somebody to talk to at night instead of being in the room all alone. And for him, it's something that I think he's getting to see the countryside. I mean, places he's never been before. And, you know, I think it's great for both of us. I play golf because I enjoy the game. I enjoy the competition. And I enjoy the pressure of being in contention or playing well and having a chance to win a golf tournament. I feel like I bring myself up to a different level when the pressure gets on.
During the fall, the accumulation of leaves on the ground leads many golf courses to implement a local rule to help players deal with this problem. Most golfers refer to this as a leaf rule, but they have little idea of what it means or how it works. First off, when this local rule is in effect, it applies only to holes where the problem occurs. So you can't take shelter under the leaf rule every time you hit an errant shot in autumn. Secondly, there must be reasonable evidence that the ball is actually lost in the leaves. If there is any chance the ball is lost somewhere other than in the leaves, it must be treated as a lost ball. In this example, the player's ball might be in the leaves, but it might also be in the creek. If that's the case, it must be treated as a lost ball, and the player must go back to where she last played from under a stroke and distance penalty. How does the rule work then? When the committee puts the rule into effect, it means that temporary accumulations of leaves through the green may be treated as ground under repair. Therefore, if the rule is in effect and you lose your ball in a spot through the green where the only possible explanation is that it's in the leaves, you may proceed as follows. You must determine as best you can the point where the ball last crossed the margin of the leaves, which is not near the hole, and drop within 1 club length of that point. You cannot drop in a hazard or on a putting green. One final point. Where there are lots of leaves, there are lots of trees. Yet I never see anyone drop behind a tree when proceeding under this local rule. Remember, if the point you determine where the ball last crossed the margin of the leaves is behind a tree, then that is your reference point for dropping.
Sam Snead grew from a Virginia hillbilly into a world figure with a wonderful swing, a sweet swing that was the envy of everybody. He was a marvelous athlete. From a standing start, he could kick the top of a door frame 8 feet high. His golf record was amazing. 135 tournament victories around the world and a PGA record of 84 tournament victories. And yet, poor Sam never won the U.S. Open Championship.
Sam Snead saw the swing as a wheel with his head as the hub and left arm as the spoke. By swinging the spoke around and up, his hands finish in the slot between his head and right shoulder. Snead played almost entirely by feel and often said he tried to feel oily. Combined with his tempo and swinging at only 80 or 90% is why he looked so smooth. Sam's waggle was part of feeling oily, and it contributed to his smoothness, helped keep his grip, especially his right hand light, which was another one of his tempo keys. Snead's backswing looks very simple. There isn't any independent manipulation of the club by any part of the body. No flippiness, no wristy jerking, and no casting. Sam tried to keep his hands high at the finish. This kept him from being too inside out, more on the line he was trying to hit the ball on. Sam always had a key thought. He was trying to return his arms and the shaft through impact back to the addressed position. Part of the gracefulness in Sam Snead's swing was the fact that he was double jointed. Sam's setup is slightly closed, and this is to ensure an inside attack on the ball. Just prior to taking the club back, Sam would cock his chin, much the same as Jack Nicklaus does, and this made room for a more full shoulder turn.
Ball position is one of the simplest and most important fundamentals there is in golf. A simple change in your ball position can cause you to push or pull a shot. Now, the ideal ball position changes just a little bit with each club. With the driver, when you position the golf ball, you want it just inside your left heel. And because of the way the club's made, with the handle going straight down into the head, the face progresses just a little bit in front of the shaft, and your hands should be even or just slightly behind the ball. With this ball position, it enables you to come through and contact the golf ball as you're coming straight through to the target. Now, if you position the ball too far back in your stance, what happens is you contact the ball too early in your swing, and your ball would tend to push to the right. If you put the ball too far forward in the swing, you've already passed the point where you're straight. Now you're contacting it too late, and your ball would tend to pull to the left. Now, the ball position changes just a little bit with each club. A 5-iron, for instance, is going to be a little bit further back than the driver, simply because the handle of the club is in front of the head of the club with an iron, because you want to have a little bit more of a descending blow with your swing. That's the way it's designed. So when you position the 5-iron, you'll see that the ball moves back just a little bit. And then when we get down to the wedges, it moves back just a little bit more. So the ball position is going to change just a couple inches in your stance through the whole set of clubs, but it does change a little bit. The width of your stance you vary with your back foot, but the ball position is staying the same relative to your left heel. If you're pushing or pulling your shots, it could be something just as simple as your ball position. Check it and make sure you've got it right.
The backswing. Of all the moves in golf, none has stimulated more analysis, theories, pages of writing, and furrowed brows than this one. Why is the backswing of such concern, and how do you get it right? Jack Nicklaus has a concise answer to the first of those two questions.
Through a great majority of the rounds of golf that I've played in my golfing career, one thought has really dominated my thinking, and that is complete the backswing. Why do I want to complete the backswing? Why is it so important? Well, there are two elements in the golf swing which we're all trying to achieve, and that's power and accuracy. And if we complete the backswing, we have a chance to deliver both of these simultaneously at the golf ball at the time of impact.
If we want to amplify and reinforce that statement a little, we might say something like this. Long straight golf shots are the product of clubhead speed squarely applied to the ball. And the more complete the backswing in the sense of both fullness of motion and the correctness of mechanics, the faster the clubhead can be swung and the more solidly it can be delivered to the ball. But how? What are the critical components of a fine backswing? For answers to these questions, let's turn to one of the finest golfers in the world today and another all-time great. You'll spot some slight variations in what they say and do, but recognize that these are personal idiosyncrasies, not fundamentals. Focus instead on what these two greats have in common. First, golf's only Grand Slam winner, the incomparable Bobby Jones.
The important points here are the wind-up of the hips and body, the extension of the left arm, and the cock of the wrist, indicated by the angle between the left arm and the shaft of the club. Now let's see how the backswing arrives at these positions. The turn of the body takes place approximately around the spine as an axis, and the head does not move appreciably either sidewise or in an up and down direction. The extension of the left arm limits the width of the arc which the backswing can follow. If the left arm is not taut, its extension is indefinite, and the swing may go anywhere. But if it is fully extended, the arc of the swing will be as wide and therefore as long as possible, allowing the greatest time to gain speed before impact. The best way to assure a full extension of the left arm is to use it in pushing the club back, not independently of the body turn, but assisted by the movement of the entire left side.
Despite the fluid action necessitated by the wooden shafted clubs of Bob's era, the backswing fundamentals remain the same today. Rotation and extension around a fixed axis. Now let's hear from a current standout, England's Nick Faldo, working here with his famous teacher, David Ledbetter.
We can get Nick to move the club away to the first stage of the backswing. Now we're in a position really where the club continues. Simply what happens from here, the right shoulder turns, the right elbow folds, and the right wrist really hinges. So now you can see at this point here, we've got the wrist almost fully cocked when the left arm is parallel to the ground. Now as Nick continues his right shoulder turning, the weight moves into the right side, the back is facing the target, and he has wound up the big back muscles here, really coiling himself, ready to come back to the ball.
One great practice drill David gave me was what I would call a preset position, where after I'd taken my address, I preset this wrist cock. So the club is parallel with the line and also parallel with the ground, so I have completed the wrist cock. I don't want to be here or too far down. Set it completely. Now simply all I do is turn my right shoulder behind me, but resisting with my right knee. I don't want anything else to fold back with it. So pulling back with the right shoulder. As you can see, I've completed the backswing in a perfect position. Just quickly run through that again. Set the wrists so they stay in front of me, there. Parallel and on line. Now just turn the right shoulder into that position.
Coil, turn, wind up. The same words and connotations from both Jones and Faldo. And you'd hear them over and over again from any other fine golfer you'd care to name. But I'm certain you've noted our big contradiction. Nick Faldo cocks his wrist at the beginning of his backswing, and Jones does it gradually from start to finish. Who's correct? The answer is they both are. And the reason why is that putting the hinge in the swing by cocking the wrist is a preference, not a principle, an idiosyncrasy, not a fundamental. The absolute proof of this, of course, is that each player, although radically different in this regard, has compiled a superb competitive record. Simply put, what Jones and Faldo did in the area of wrist cocking was to discover, by trial and error, in practice, what worked best for him, then stayed with it from then on. You will play your best by doing exactly the same, but always within the framework of those two great backswing fundamentals, rotation and extension around a steady axis.
Old soldiers never die. One became president of the United States during the fabulous 50s and dealt with such matters of national importance as playing golf in the Southern California desert. Dwight Eisenhower helped draw attention to Palm Springs as a golf destination, and the sheer volume of golf courses in the area is astounding. There are 80 courses in the 150-square-mile Coachella Valley and many more under construction. There was a time when golf in Palm Springs meant golf at La Quinta Hotel and Resort. But thanks, at least in part, to the skins game, golfers traveling to the desert are just as anxious to sink their teeth into PGA West, specifically Pete Dye's notorious stadium course. The signature hole of the stadium course is the par 3 17th, called Alcatraz. There are 3 other courses at PGA West and another under construction. The Nicklaus Resort course is open to the public, as is the stadium course. La Quinta Hotel Golf and Tennis Resort is still the standard for lodging excellence in the desert, and the golf's not bad either. There are 3 layouts here: the Dunes, the Citrus, and the Mountain courses. The Dunes is open only to hotel guests. Its front 9 winds its way around a flood-controlled channel, and the homeward 9 is as tough as they come. The course has been the site of the PGA Tour's qualifying school, and its 17th hole is rated one of the toughest in the land by the PGA. La Quinta's Citrus course is Pete Dye at his most benign. It has the look and beauty of PGA West Stadium course, but is considerably easier and more fun to play, and it's open to the public. The Mountain course at La Quinta may be the most famous of the trio, but it is private and you must be accompanied by a member to play. Over in Rancho Mirage is the Westin Mission Hills Resort, where the main attraction is the Pete Dye course, measuring 6,706 yards from the tips and playing to a par of 70. Here again, you'll find Dye's design caters to the golfer looking for fun rather than a death march. The Westin Hotel part of the resort won't be open until August of '91, and a little later in the year, a Gary Player designed course will join Dye's creation at Mission Hills. If you're wondering about the other tracks at Mission Hills Country Club, all 3, the Old Palmer and Dinah Shore courses, are private. The town of Palm Desert is home to the Marriott Desert Springs Resort and its 2 courses, the Palm and the Valley. Both courses were designed by Ted Robinson and play 6,760 yards and 6,600 yards from the tips, respectively. A nice sidelight here is the greens at Desert Springs, an all-natural 18-hole putting course with water, sand, and the works. The Desert Dunes Golf Club is located in the southern tip of Desert Hot Springs. Robert Trent Jones Jr. created the feel of a rolling Irish links course in a land that's a paradox of Ireland. This is one of the few courses in the area not connected to a hotel. The Indian Wells Resort courses operate independently from any hotel, but guests at the Stouffer, Esmeralda, or Hyatt Grand Champion hotels get preferred tee times. The resort's east and west courses are similar in design and challenge, and were built by Ted Robinson with the resort-type player in mind. That is to say, the courses won't have you for lunch. Indian Wells Country Club is private and can only be played with a member.
If you're an average golfer and want to improve your game quickly, one of the easiest methods of lowering your score is to develop a method for chipping the ball. For this particular shot, we have selected a 7-iron. The 7-iron is used here because the green is flat from the front of the green all the way back to the hole. We will chip using the spot method. Previously, we have determined a spot on the green 1/3 the distance between the ball and the hole. That is my target. When I go about making my shot, my concentration will be on the spot, hoping to chip the ball to that point, letting it roll the remaining distance to the hole. The way in which I will play this shot is to use the 7-iron with a relatively short grip on the golf club, playing the ball back in my stance, hands and body weight slightly forward. Remember, pick a spot 1/3 the distance to the hole on the putting surface. Chip to that point and let the ball roll the remaining distance to the hole.
This month's personal lesson is for Andrew Lurch, a 17-year-old from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Andrew carries a 6 handicap, wants to play college golf, and feels like he needs to improve a couple shots to be able to do that. As a natural fare, he tends to draw the ball right to left, although he pull hooks the ball somewhat with his short irons and would like that problem addressed. As we look at Andrew's setup and swing, the first thing to be noted is, at address, he tilts his spine much too much to the right and puts his hands in a slightly forward pressed position, too much so. From this position, the club will tend to go back on the inside, and at the top of his backswing, he'll get very flat. From this tight, packed position at the top, he then changes direction by rerouting the club with his shoulders. What's wrong with that? Very simply, you must swing and draw the ball with your upper body and control your draw with your lower body. To do that, your lower body must initiate the forward swing. But Andrew can't do that because of this flat inside position that requires the shoulders to make an over-the-top move to get him back to the golf ball. So Andrew, here's a couple of thoughts for you and a drill. At address, set yourself up well balanced with your spine tilted ever so slightly to the right. Get your hands back even with the golf ball or with your driver even slightly behind. Your shaft should be pretty much perpendicular to where you want to go. This will allow you to start the club straighter back on line and get to the top in a somewhat more vertical position. Now here's your key move. Once you get to the top, you must learn to clear your lower body and keep your shoulder in the shot. And here's the drill for you to properly coordinate your upper and lower bodies. Set up to the golf ball, hold your driver out at arm's length, and don't let your left arm move. Make believe you have a club in your right hand, swing back to the top, come on down, swinging your right arm underneath your left arm. This will do two things for you. Number one, by not letting your left arm move, it'll keep your left shoulder in the shot. It won't let you rotate your shoulders too flat. Secondly, it will allow you the feeling and the sensation of your left hip and left leg clearing out of the way to initiate your forward swing. So whether it's for you, Andrew, or for many of the other people who watch these video lessons and have problems coming over the top and pull or pull hooking the golf ball, remember, you swing your upper body to draw the ball, and you initiate your forward swing with your lower body to control that draw. Hope it helps, Andrew. Good luck.
With the amateur being played at Cherry Hills this year, it sort of reminds me back of when I played at Cherry Hills in the Open as an amateur in 1960. I was 20 years old at the time. I was a national amateur champion. I'd won that at the Broadmoor the year before. I got to Cherry Hills and I felt like I was playing pretty well. I'd told my college golf coach, Bob Kepler, that I said, you know, I'm playing so well, Kep, I just might win this thing. I shot 71, 71 the first two rounds. I was at 142, and I went in to look at the pairings for the third round, and there I was paired with Ben Hogan. I'm paired with Ben Hogan, swallowed a couple times, and went out the next day, and I shot 69 in the morning, and I was at 211. Coming up the 18th hole, I'll never forget it, I hit a driver and 4-iron, I think it was, up on the right fringe, just off the right side of the green. And little did I know that if I'd have gotten it up and down, that I would have forced Arnold to have to par the last hole to win the golf tournament. And I finished at 282, 2 under par. That was the year that Arnold had shot 65 the last round of charge. Dan Jenkins told me, he told Ben, he said, gee, Ben, that's too bad. He says, you could have had your fifth. And he says, yeah, I could have my fifth. He says, I played with a young kid, if he had a brain in his head, would have won the tournament.
If you're a golfer that's played the game for a very long time, 10, 20, 30 years, and you're a good player, or maybe you don't think you're a real good player, but you're a very consistent player, you have a grooved swing, one real important thing you should guard against. When you fall into a little bit of a slump, don't look for something exotic to be wrong with your golf swing. Usually it's something very elementary. And one of the most elementary things you can check, and the very first thing you should always check, is your alignment and ball position. The two tend to complement each other, or in some cases not complement each other. But it's a very important thing to let you swing with the golf swing you've been playing with for a lot of years. Let me show you some of the bad things that can happen. It seems like one of the most common errors in golf are people who aim to the right of their target, actually aim to the right of where they think they're aiming. And as that goes on and becomes worse and worse, before you know it, aiming to the right gets the ball back way too far in your stance. Now you're in a position where all you can do to get the club back to the target is come way out over the top and pull the ball back on line. A lot of bad shots, very common error. The other thing that can happen is the golfer who tries to set the ball down the left side of the fairway. gets aiming to the left, and one day, for whatever reason, gets aiming more and more and more left. And now the ball is out in front of their left foot. They start hitting a lot of pull hooks, a lot of shots that start left and then go left. Not a good way to play the game. Let's see if I can show you a simple graphic way to help yourself. A lot of times you'll see professional golfers on the practice tee with the club down, parallel to the line to the target. They do this either because they have a specific problem that day, or they're simply trying to build a good habit. I suggest that you take a club, lay it down midway between your stance and the ball, on a parallel line to the target line. At this point, and this point only, can you correctly evaluate ball position. Take another club, point it at the ball, make it perpendicular to this club, and you can find out exactly where the ball is. If you like to play your tee shot, let's say, from just the inside of your left heel, if you address the ball from this position, it's pretty easy to find out if that's where you've been playing it from. It'll feel very awkward if you've had the ball way back and been aiming to the right, or vice versa the other way. I think you can go ahead and practice a lot of times with this club right there on the line to the target. Not only will you build a good alignment habit and in that way keep the ball in good position, but the club in your little peripheral vision when you stand there and hit the shot almost encourages you to swing the club more on the target line. Okay, so let's see. If we get our feet in proper alignment parallel to this club, the club face perpendicular to that line, we should be able to hit the ball right on the line to the target. If you fall into a slump, don't look for something to be wrong that's never been wrong in all your golf life. Check some of the things that have to be correct. Check where you aim, check the ball position. You'll play better golf.
This summer, I enjoyed watching the World Cup soccer matches, but regrettably, this global event was scarred by another large dose of hooliganism. It seems to me in Europe, where there is soccer, there are riots. Here in America, fan participation at football and basketball games is usually acceptable and often even exhilarating. There is nothing quite like the setting for a college football game, the students with their faces painted, doing the wave and singing the school fight song. What worries me is that same kind of conduct at a golf tournament would border on hooliganism. And I believe golf fan conduct is slowly eroding in our country. Now, don't get me wrong. When I watched Hale Irwin sink that monstrous putt at Medina's 72nd hole, my approval and excitement could not be contained, nor should it have been. But in golf spectating, unlike other sports, you release your enthusiasm after the shot, not before and not during. These days, I believe golf is walking a fine line. How would you have liked to have been Greg Norman at Shinnecock's Open when he was accosted on the back nine Sunday by a cruel and deviant troublemaker? Or put yourself in Jeff Sluman's size 6 shoes at the Players' Championship. He was putting for a 10-year exemption, only to see it washed away by an insensitive, aquatic fool. Maybe it's the closeness factor with golf. There is no other sport that provides an arena where the fans continually can be within an arm's length of their heroes. Aside from the Shoal Creek controversy, 1990 also will be remembered for those 3 ringing words. No, not "move over, Willie," not "Jack is back," not even "Great White Shark." No, 1990, the year in golf, will be remembered for that supportively insincere bellow, "You're the man." You're the man! Surely you heard it this year at the Masters. In fact, you heard it more than once at Augusta. It started at the Masters and was with us seemingly every week. For some band of enthusiastic followers, they have found a whole new access to the national television airwaves through their audio. This may not sound like a big deal, and it isn't, until someone mistimes their meaningless bark in a player's backswing. Maybe those 3 words will come in handy after all. Go on out and watch the world's greatest play golf. Cheer them on passionately. At the same time, respect the game. Respect its traditions. Embrace proper fan conduct and etiquette. And remember, you're the man. In upcoming issues of the Wide World of Golf, we'll answer the question, are you getting what you pay for in golf equipment? Do higher prices necessarily mean improved performance? The Total Putting Guide continues with Bob Rosberg and a variety of tour players, including former U.S. Open champion Scott Simpson and two-time Women's Open champ Betsy King. Dave Marr will show you how the swing of Sir Walter Hagen can help your game, and we'll announce the Wide World of Golf's Player of the Year. Who will it be? You'll find out that and much more in the upcoming issues of the Wide World of Golf. Arnold Palmer Course Strategy was courtesy of Vestron Video, 1010 Washington Boulevard, Stamford, Connecticut, 06901. Call 1-800-523-5503 to order. Jack Nicklaus Golf My Way 1 and 2 are products of World Vision Home Video, 660 Madison Avenue, New York, New York, 10021. Videos may be obtained by calling 1-800-321-3900. Nick Faldo's golf course was courtesy of Vestron Video, 1010 Washington Boulevard, Stamford, Connecticut, 06901. To get your copy, call 1-800-523-5503. Bobby Jones Instructional Series are products of Cybervision, World Headquarters, 7133 Cole Center Parkway, Pleasanton, California, 94566. Call 1-800-888-9980 to order. The Wide World of Golf is the perfect gift for any golfer. To subscribe for 1 year, call 1-800-441-2300 or send a check for $99.95 payable to the Wide World of Golf, 22 Church Street, Liberty Corner, New Jersey, 07938.